It's 12:12 and we are calling this meeting to order. We have a quorum. We have we have Mr. Soto and Tyler James that are out today. And we'll have Dr. Garcia and Amber helping us out with invocation of the pledge. Dr. Garcia.
Okay, if you'll bow your heads, please. Father God, we want to come before you right now, dear God, and just thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to come and gather together, Father. We ask that you be over this meeting, Father, as decisions are made for this district, for this community, Father. We ask that you we ask a special blessing over each one of the board members, Father, that you give them the wisdom, the knowledge, and the direction that is needed from you, Father, and that the decisions that are made, Father, will protect our students, our staff, our faculty, and our community, Father. And we thank you, Lord, for allowing us this time to come and be able to do that, Father. We ask this all in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Would you stand with me for pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Appears we don't have any citizen comments. The first item we have and the proposed tax rate with the M&O as well as the passage of the bond would have been $1.44. With the passage of House Bill 3, the tax rate on the M&O side has been compressed from 117, which, as the board will remember, was a result of the tax ratification election. So the state, and this is where I just want to provide a lot of clarity. The state last year compressed us to about 1.068, or about 1.7, $1.07. So what the state said is, we'll make up the difference. The world was a very different place, though. And so the state's primary revenue sources to make up the difference are franchise tax. Was businesses close, franchise tax goes down because franchising tax is a function of registered LLCs, LLPs, LCs, S corps, and corporations. So as they close down, franchising tax revenues that go to the state of Texas begin to diminish. Second is sales tax, and we all understand what's happened there. And then the third is oil and gas, and the fourth is recapture. Recapture, of course, is a function of property wealthy districts sending in their excess tax revenues to the state. So why is that a problem? Well, excess tax revenues are based on property values and collection rates. So I'll give you our example. We received our property values, and property values in Plainview have dropped. So what 107 would have generated last year will not be what 107 generates this coming year because property values are lower. So if the state's fourth funding source, this four-legged stool, is recaptured from wealthy districts like your Friscos or large oil-producing communities like Plains, those that tend to pay in, well, you can anticipate that if they have oil and gas holdings, as well as companies that operate oil and gas holdings, that their property values are going to go down too. And potentially some of their collection rates will go down. So that means they're not going to collect as much as they would have, and that means they're not going to send in as much as they would have to the state. So you have franchising tax down, you have sales revenues down, you have recapture down, and you have oil and gas royalties down. So the state, as a function of House Bill 3 last year, they made us whole. And whatever we weren't going to bring in with the 117, they made up at the 107. They made up the difference. They said they'll make up the difference this year. Now, if y'all remember, I've already shared at the last board meeting that they didn't give us the final payment, which was about 5%. They ended up saying, well, the federal government gave you the CARES Act money, so they cut our budget 5%. So even though they said, we're going to compress your tax rate from 117 to 107 and we'll make you whole, they didn't. They didn't last year. Now, the federal government ended up sending in money, which did, but they didn't. So, House Bill 3 has further compressed our maintenance and operation tax rate to 1.0547. You'll see that addition here. So they further compressed the tax rate to 1.0547. And the state, as last year said, will make up the difference, which they didn't last year. The feds ended up making up the difference last year. So what I'm saying to the board is I believe that the chances are 49-51. 49 being they will make up the difference, 51 being they probably won't make up the full difference. I don't think they'll leave us in a large gap, but I don't think they'll make up the full difference. The other thing we have to take a look at locally are going to be collection rates. And with decreased property values, that means we're bringing in less with the same tax rate. So, with all that being said, we still feel confident we can, with the best information we have, with a marginal decrease from the state, with the compression of the tax rate, property values being low, student enrollment being variable, we're still going to propose, instead of the 1.44, $1.44 for maintenance and operation interest and seeking fund combined, we're looking at a maintenance and operation interest and seeking fund tax rate combined at 135.47. So what we had initially told the community is the bond would result in 1.44. However, we'll propose 1.3547. We believe we can service the debt and handle operations for the district as long as we don't assume any major large costs outside of what we've already presented to you during the budget workshop. It was 2 weeks ago. So if we hold to the budget that Ms. Chapa presented to y'all, if we hold to that and don't go too wild on it, we can still pay the interest and sinking debt for the work for the bond, and we can still run the operations and make payroll for the district. I don't anticipate having a deficit budget unless I have to come to you and tell you at some point that the state has withheld a payment, which is a possibility because the greatest indicator of future action is past action, and past action has already proven that they withheld a payment. 5%. So the action today really isn't to approve the 1.35 tax rate. The action today is to set the date to approve the tax rate for our next regularly scheduled board meeting, which will of course be before August 31st. This has to be approved before August 31st, and our next board meeting is in 2 weeks. So at that point in time, the budget and tax rate can be approved. Now they're complementary because you can't approve a lower tax rate and still make the budget, and you can't approve a higher budget and still make this tax rate. So this tax rate is tailored to the budget. And so as we presented the board a balanced budget and also stated that we weren't increasing what we needed on the employee compensation side, that we felt we could, with the same employee compensation last year, make this year work. With the projects that we've taken on, I mean, we're pretty much where we can be. You know, the greenhouse is the greenhouse, the welding shop's the welding shop, but trying to take on additional projects beyond that would be difficult. So I just say that to the board and the community. If there's something big that we really wish we could have outside of what was in the bond and the projects that we've already begun, this probably isn't the year that we can tackle that unless we want to go into fund balance, which with the state of the economy, I don't recommend. That's a rainy day fund, and I know it's raining, but it's not up to our needs yet. I think at the point in time it gets to about right here, then we start looking at it. So, but we're not there yet. So I compliment the board on its financial stewardship, because the rainy day fund is a healthy rainy day fund for this kind of a situation. So with that, on behalf of the administration, I'd like to recommend the approval to set the public hearing and propose a tax rate and budget for the 2020-21 school year.
Board, any questions? No questions. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Rivera. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Bass. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
So it'll be August 20th when we have the opportunity to vote on the budget and the opportunity to vote on the tax rate. And what this does is it serves as public notice of the board's intention to set the tax rate at 1.35, now 1.44, which in tough economic times is still the right thing to do. We'll just have to keep an eye on the state. The next thing we have is consideration and approval to offer advanced floral design as an innovative course at Plainview High School.
Yes, the way that we look at floral design, it's part of our overall plan to expand our career tech program at the high school. And that is one area among several others that has begun to really grow with our students and their requests for that class. And so this adds to the depth of what that class will be. It'll bring more students to it, where it's such a hands-on lab, and it's going to be a real draw to our kids, and it's going to be a benefit in how that they raise money for their own program, and that real hands-on activity that takes place in floral design and other areas. It's also going to have spillover into the areas of biology, so that we can utilize our greenhouse in that area. So we're really looking forward to it.
So this will be one offered in the greenhouse, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we do need board approval for any innovative course. It's something that is outside of courses that are in existence. So innovative course by its very name and nature means it's something that not everyone else is offering. It's something that our high school will be offering in a very unique sense, with unique curricula that is aligned to Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, but does go above and beyond current course offerings. It also is credit bearing, and it does fit within the alignment of the course of study for this particular area. So with that, on behalf of the administration and the high school, I'd like to recommend approval to offer.
No questions. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve and offer advanced floral design as an innovative course at Plainview High School.
Okay, We have a motion by Ms. Bass. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second by Ms. Dickerson. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries by vote.
The next item we have is consideration and possible approval to amend the January 16, 2020 order of a general election for School Board of Trustees 2020. To November 3rd. So what we have to do is, I'm not going to ask for y'all to approve all of the items because we're still working through this as it is uncharted territory. So I'll try to explain. I got off the phone with Ed Manning, our general counsel, and this is what she explained. So if we're holding an election, but it's not in line with the national election, we can have our own polling places and we can run our own process. However, by law, if we're going to run an election and it's in alignment with the general election, like a presidential election, then we have to work side by side with the county, so we don't run our own polling places. Our polling places are the county's polling places, which does limit the polling places that will be available. So what the order has to reflect is we're not going to do it on our own and have our own polling places. The order reflects that we'll be working with the county. Also, because everything is in motion right now, the county still hasn't selected its election judges and officers, so they're still in the process of that. So we can't select ours until they select theirs. So today, I'm just asking for approval on 1, 3, and, or 1, 2, and 5. Whoever makes a recommendation, I ask if you'll recommend to approve 1, 2, and 5, and table 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If anybody wants to make that motion, I'll hand you the sheet. Moving to approve item 3, 1, 2, and 5, and to table 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if somebody will do that, and the rest we'll pick up at the next meeting. Thank you.
Board, any questions before we make a motion? Y'all don't want to know what 2, 3, 4, 5.
I was gonna say, what are we tabling until when?
Sure. The other ones we're tabling are going to be the joint resolution for the joint election, the elections administrator, the early voting clerk and deputy voting clerk, central count station manager, election judge on election day, and alternative election judge on election day, bilingual clerk, the signature verification committee, the judge for signature verification committee, an alternative judge for signature verification committee, supervisor, and rover for each voting center on election day. Those are the ones.
So everything that the county will, that will select.
Yes, ma'am. They're gonna vote who they want into those roles, and then we'll offer our assistance.
And we'll table that until they get that.
Yes.
And we're approving the dates and times. Are the dates and times on the paper already, or?
Yes, they are.
We're approving the early voting election times and the locations where that will take place.
Okay, do we
So-
know the dates though?
Yes, it's October the 13th through October the 30th for the early voting time, early voting. And that will take place at the Plainview Courthouse, Abernathy City Hall, Petersburg City Hall, and at Hale Center at the Lamont Center. During early voting times, they can vote at any of those locations. Voting will be from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. through that time, except on October the 15th and October the 22nd. That will be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Election Day, November the 3rd, will be at various locations, more than what we just meant by precinct, but that will be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. as well.
So for these precincts, 1, 6, and 7?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
They would have already had to apply and put their name in. They can't, back in January, February, when
Right.
the original application was due.
Right, those folks are still on the ballot. Who's on the ballot is on the ballot. No one can add their name at this point in time. So, the other thing that we did, I did ask Ms. Lucidio to send out and to make available through Dr. Garcia's office, people can begin campaigning. The only thing that people have to be careful about when they campaign is the city has some guidelines on how close to the street it can be and how big it can be and those kinds of things. But that's all included in that document in Dr. Garcia's office, so we'll just need to be sure that people adhere to that. So, and then there, of course, are all the other regulations on electioneering, on government property or tax-funded property or using tax-funded resources. We still have all that available as well.
Board, any other questions? Okay, no other questions. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve items 1, 2, and 5 and table 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Bass. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Joan Ray. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
All right, under, those are all the items we have under business. The next item we have is informational items. I want to compliment the elementary, middle, and high school principals and others who took part in the online presentation yesterday as start of school plans. I think the elementary principals were the most popular with about 85 people viewing. When we got to high school, I think only 10 high school parents logged on at that point. But the gentlemen performed nonetheless. They did a good job in getting the word out. We felt that, I think there were 7 people presenting, so we thought it was 7 spouses and 3 citizens. But either way, we did answer a lot of questions. The information is still posted. Anybody can go back through and review those videos, and that's why we went ahead and did it in the manner we did. We broadcasted it out so people didn't have to leave work to come to listen. They could listen at work, and then it's recorded so they can go back through, they can rewatch and get the information they need firsthand from principals. The other thing the principals did was encourage parents to take a look at their webpage and social media information, because they do load quite a bit of content there, and we are doing everything in both languages. So what the principals are going to present today, one of the conversations we had on June 27th, when we started talking about when we started talking about, or it was July 13th, it was when we started talking about what school would look like after we received word from the state that we were gonna still be in person, but that we needed to consider an online option. Now, please note, board, by law, we're not required to have an online option. We could have, like some smaller school districts, said, it's all in person or nothing. We could have selected to go down that road, but we said, we'll do in person because that's what we're legally required to do by the commission and the governor. That wasn't left to us. The only way that changes is if there's a major outbreak and then the board, with a good amount of reliable data from the health authority, decides at the recommendation of the superintendent, or if it's a majority of the board, to move everything online. I mean, those are the three ways. Health authority comes up and says, you guys really should consider closing and going all online. Here's all the data I have. Even if I don't recommend it, if a majority of the board feels that's what we need to do, that's within your authority. And the Attorney General for the state of Texas has blessed you with that authority. The other way would be the health authority comes and tells me, I say, you know what, you're right, I bring it to the board, I present it to you, but it's still your vote. So the only way, according to the Attorney General's interpretation of the Texas Constitution and what's allowable in a situation like this, would be the health authority does not have the sole discretion to shut down in-person school. It's your call. And then, based on the information that we'd have to submit to the Texas education agencies, their call to decide whether or not they keep funding us. Because they could decide, even though the board looks at the data and feels it's compelling, the state agency could still come back and go, we don't think that it's as bad as you say it is, and we're not going to fund you at the full level. They could fund you partially. So they still maintain discretion, even though you called it, it doesn't mean that it's fully funded. And that, of course, is the caution against school boards that may just say, well, we're just going to do it all online because that's what we want to do. And there's no need to in the purview of the powers that are above the level of discretion allowed you by the Texas Constitution and statutes that govern education. So with all that, what our principals are here to present, as well as some of our programmatic directors, they're going to present the plans that they have in place for online instruction. So in essence, we know what it's going to look like in the classroom. They talked about that yesterday. They spent a good amount of time talking about, here's what we're going to do in our hallways and cafeterias, so on and so forth. Here's what the classroom is going to look like. What they're going to talk to you about today is going to be, and we are live streaming this for the public as well, what it's going to look like online. And I will say, I said it 3 times yesterday, so I'll say it for the 4th time today. We did tell the public that for the spring semester of the 1920 school year, March, April, May, we would provide technology. So what we did is we went and took all the computers we could get from the campuses, pulled them together, and we lent them out. We got most of them back, not all of them back, but we got most of them back. And when we got them back, we checked them out, cleaned them, and then sent them back to the campuses, because that's where we got them from. So we did state that for the spring semester, because no one was on campus, no one was in school, that you could use them because we had them and no one was using them. But we sent them back. And they're not evenly distributed among campuses. Some campuses bought more laptops than others. And some of the principals sitting in the room here, it was either their predecessor who did buy or didn't buy. Now, fortunately for the board, you all, or fortunately for us on behalf of the district, the students, and by the board's authority, you approved the recommendation to buy 3,000 laptops. But as you can imagine, everyone else wants to buy a whole lot of laptops. Not just in Texas, but in the nation. I'm going to ask Dr. Richburg to give us a little bit of an update on word he got yesterday regarding where our laptops are.
So with our vendor, we ordered Lenovo, you probably don't remember that, Lenovo Chromebooks. They very popular, probably about the HP and Lenovo kind of have the market. With that vendor that we selected, we were order number 57,000 through 60,000. And we knew that when we ordered it, that's where we were going to be pretty much with any vendor. They were expecting a shipment, and they got word, I think July 28th is the date on the letter that I got yesterday, that the manufacturer of Lenovo and some other products as well, other brands in China, if you heard over the weekend, there were human rights violations. And the ship got here and they sent it back. So they're anticipating another 4 to 6 weeks on top of the September 30th that we were originally anticipating. So I told the vendor, he said, well, I'm sorry. I said, well, I guess you really had nothing to do with it. And we're kind of at the mercy of foreign policy and everything else in between. So we're doing the best they can. The vendor's doing the best they can. Even the manufacturer, I think, they're moving to new manufacturing facilities and kind of retooling and starting over in some other facilities.
So, we can control what Border and Customs does with shipments. So, for the parents that are giving us the opportunity to educate their children on campus, it's not right to take the laptops from them and issue them out. And I'll be real clear on this. As I mentioned, certain campuses, as part of their campus plan, bought these devices with an intent to use them to deliver instruction. So it's not like we can take them from everyone and everyone feels the pain equally. We have campuses that made a concerted effort to set their money aside or use their federal money to buy them for their purposes. And to take them from them and to give them out after they've spent a few 2 to 3 years accumulating them over grants and, 100 this year, 200 this year. Yeah, I mean, I have that authority, y'all have that authority, but just because you have the authority doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. And so I don't think it's the right thing to do the middle schools are where we have them, is to say to both middle school principals, hey, I know you wrote that grant and got it and all, but we need them all because we're going to give them out to people. And I know that you were using them for math. That's what we got them in for math. I mean, they wrote a grant for math. And so we'd be taking them from them and they wouldn't have them available. So we could give them out. So I know that you may be fielding calls, we're fielding calls for people who say, well, you said you were going to give them to us. That's true for the spring semester. But I was looking back through my notes, I was looking back to what I presented on the 13th to the board, and in no time did we state that we would be giving out laptops. Because up until July, we had no word from the state of Texas other than we were going to start school like we regularly were going to start school. Then the spike hit, and the state then decided that we needed to have an online option. So that's where we found ourselves. So prior to that, there was no communication to anyone about lending out laptops in June. Because in June, we were starting school regularly. It wasn't until July when I asked for the special board meeting to present to you that we had to have this other option. So I just want to lay that all out to be sure that we're all on the same page. And, I mean, I have the memo. You guys have the memo. The memo is a part of the board record. And nowhere in the memo does it say that we were providing technology. I actually, at that meeting, was very intent in stating that the commissioner stated, no, we don't have to provide the technology because of limited circumstance, nor the connectivity. It's not the responsibility of the district to provide that. Though we said we would begin looking at avenues too sometime in the future. And we spent a bit of time talking through the challenges there. If there are any questions on any of that, I'll be happy to answer those before the elementary principals come up. All right, so with that, I'll turn it over to, let's see, the elementary campuses and Ms. Garrett. And y'all come on up. I don't know if Mr. Brown's doing the introduction or if y'all are just going to introduce yourselves.
I'd like to introduce our elementary staff.
Okay, Okay, actually, I was voted to be the spokesperson because I have the loudest mouth, I'm sure, but I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. We wanted to let you know how our teachers are feeling about online instruction. Oh, yay, y'all are up here. Okay, let me just tell you, our teachers are some of the most amazing people in the world, and we just feel like they take the challenge and they run with it. Has there been anxiety? Of course, because this is all new to all of us. And so when we presented that some of them would have to go become a virtual teacher, that creates some anxiety. We've never done this before. What does Google Classroom look like? How do I present these lessons to kids? But as Katrina and her team have helped us to create trainings, and then Elisa Carter has been amazing at creating modules for all the teachers to work through. Even before school started, many of our staff were spending time on their computers trying to figure out Google Classroom. The teachers really, for the most part, have been extremely receptive to our expectations of them. We, as campus principals, have tried really hard to take some load off of them and to give them some time this week when we would normally have been presenting data to them or making some plans. We've given them some extra time in their classes to get accustomed to what they might be doing this year that looks a little bit different. So really, overall, I think, yes, there is some anxiety. We would be lying if we said there weren't. And we've lost some sleep at night too, because it's all new to us. But we're easing into it. We've told the teachers it doesn't have to look perfect. Not until day 2 does it have to look perfect. The first day will be okay. We have not told them that. We don't expect that. In fact, we met yesterday for a long period of time, and we decided the first 3 days we're going to take the burden of online instruction. We're going to create a class. All the principals will be the teacher of the online class for the first 3 days of school, and Ms. Carter is pushing out some modules that we will post in our classrooms for all of our virtual learners to just learn the Google Classroom system. And there'll be a little quiz that they have to answer afterwards. That way we can take attendance from day 1 to make sure that kids are online and they're doing the things that we've asked them to do. So principals are going to be the virtual teachers for the first few days. I think that eased a lot of anxiety from our teachers from what we've heard this morning. They were like, whew, at least I can breathe for 3 more days and I can focus on our face-to-face kids. I can welcome them. I can still get my room ready. I can get my virtual classroom set up. They feel a lot better about that. So our numbers are not solid yet. That's why we really needed a little bit of extra time. We still have kids registering. I think yesterday we added them up. There's over 250 that still haven't registered. Some campuses are more full than others. And so that's just, it is a little higher this year. I think people are just, maybe they're still trying to decide whether they want to go virtual or face-to-face. We've done a lot of online call-outs through our call messenger system. So we're letting parents know of the expectation. Amber, you probably got that call out last night from me about that, yes, that you do have to supply your own piece of technology currently, that there will be requirements when kids do have to meet live with a teacher. There will be assignments that they have to turn in. So we're trying to make all of the expectations clear in case parents did choose virtual and then they're thinking, maybe that's not the best choice. So we're still allowing them to change back to face-to-face if they want to. We're making some personal phone calls to families that we really feel like we need to explain our systems with. And so we're getting a few more that are going face-to-face just once they hear the requirements. It's going to be very different than it was in the spring. In the spring, we had choice boards, which was a great plan. And we had to go quickly. We had to come up with a plan very quickly. Once again, our team rose to the challenge, and the teaching and learning team obviously did a super job for us, and then got all the teachers on board and planned with us every single week. But it's going to look very different than that. It's going to be very rigorous. We have to keep the level of instruction high for virtual kids so that if they do, when they choose to come back to us, that they're on target and they're ready to go. So have I covered pretty much everything? I think Katrina presented, okay, do you want to talk about their schedule? Sure. Okay. Any questions that you have for us?
Okay, I feel like the more I present in front of you, my hands aren't near as sweaty as they usually are. This time, they're still pretty sweaty. Lots of nerves. So, okay, so in front of you, you do have the elementary packet. Pardon the 18-page document because just read through it as you need. So let's look primarily at K through 3 to start with on the sample schedule. So we have presented this to the teachers. So far, people have been very receptive to it. I do not need to read through this in its entirety, but you can tell that there will be time that we will have a virtual teacher and a face-to-face teacher in grades K through 3. Primarily, they are self-contained. They teach everything. It would be very difficult for them to do a face-to-face and a virtual. My team today went out and began to train on the Fountas and Pinnell reading libraries that you guys approved back some time ago, so that we can continue even guided reading in a face-to-face setting with kinder through 3rd grade, also in 4th and 5th, but we were sharing the digital access to that. So very much K through 3 looks like a typical day for kids at home. They still need to log on, watch the mini lesson, starting at potentially, again, these are all sample times. Each campus looks slightly different depending on campus needs, but they will start guided reading groups using the system that you approved back in the spring. And then they will watch their foundations lesson. They could have a lunch, and this again is teacher scheduled, but this could also be mirrored at home for students. They would have their writer's workshop time, their mini lesson. Teachers then would have a conference, and then they would go back live with students to meet math groups. Some of those times, depending on how that works out virtually, those times could be used for many different things. Then there is also a time built in where we could still provide LLI lessons to them, our level of literacy intervention program that you also approved in the spring. There is also a time when they do science and social studies, and then at the end of the day, it is required that we have virtual office time for students or parents to reach out to the teacher. So at that time, virtual teachers then will check daily progress of students' work, provide any kind of feedback, and then as well as answer any questions that there are, and then take attendance. That is K through 3. Right below that is a sample schedule for face-to-face and virtual teacher schedules for pre-K through 4th and 5th grade. 4th and 5th grade is slightly different. We had been, as a group of principals and myself, we racked our brains thinking how could we do this to minimize instruction, or maximize instruction, but yet not overburden the teacher as well. So they will still follow their same face-to-face instruction day, but the principals will work in a time where face-to-face students will still attend recess. It is very important that they get outside and run off some steam. So during that time, the actual teacher will stay inside, depending on day, and will go live with their at-home learners. So they will still teach math in a live setting, science in a live setting, reading in a live setting, writing in a live setting. For an hour a day, you can see how it fluctuates every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There may be one day where it's math, then reading, then writing, then math, then reading. Okay, so that is 4th and 5th. Pre-K, for the most part, we only have one pre-K that is going full day. So I am going to refer to the schedule for a morning and an afternoon schedule. So they will run similar. They do have an assistant in their classroom who can alleviate some of that while they do go live. So they will still start their normal schedule, and potentially around 10 o'clock-ish, the face-to-face students will attend recess, and then Monday through Friday, the pre-K teacher will go live with their virtual afternoon and morning and afternoon students. So then they come back together, they send the morning students home, they get their afternoon students in class. The times, the rotation still looks the same as it would as an AM class. The afternoon, however, then from 2:45 to 3:15 towards the end of the day, face-to-face students will be taken by their assistant outside or for recess time, while the teacher then has their virtual office time. So that is their time to check daily progress of virtual students' work, provide feedback for students, be available to answer any questions, and take attendance. Dr. Sanchez, I can continue to go, or if that is in depth as you want, I'm open to ask any questions.
That's ideal, and the board has the information. We just wanted to be sure that the public had the information. I think what y'all have covered is very appropriate. And if you're a parent and you are opting for at-home instruction, you'll have to structure your day to participate with teachers all the way from pre-K through 5th grade for given content. Especially at the lower grade levels, it's hard to teach kids to read without interaction.
Correct.
So I appreciate y'all covering that, as well as the structure of what a teacher's day will look like. I think the board has heard it's still going to be very difficult for teachers to do both. And even those that are just doing online, because they're doing so much. One other consideration that we'll look at, depending on numbers, we may have one teacher teach across 2 to 3 campuses if the numbers are small. If the numbers are large, then we'll have to take a look at, do we assign all in-person students to one teacher and all virtual students to another? But, I mean, as you heard Ms. Young state, they're taking the first 3 days to figure out how many really are going to do what, so that we can make things work. And then Mr. Brown and the principals will get together and kind of negotiate out which campuses can take on which virtual learners and so on and so forth, so that we can have some degree of balance and equity. So as you can see, it's very fluid until the first couple of days, and we actually see where people land. That's been the challenging part in all of this is, I mean, you have 18 pages of planning, but you can't come up with every eventuality. So they're happy to answer any tough questions you may have.
I will divert to.
I just have a quick question, but probably different. How are registration online looking? Are numbers up? Are they down?
Dr. Richburg?
A little behind. What y'all say, y'all had about 250 across 6 campuses left. High school probably is similar to that, about the same number of kids. So we're at about 85, 90%.
How many have signed up for online? Do you know?
It's been running about 25%, and I'm not sure what's been coming down. I don't check that every day, but it's been kind of coming down as they've worked it. But somewhere between 20 and 25% is where we've been kind of the whole time. Is that what
High school's been a little lower.
20 is what the high school, middle school,
About 22.
22, so 20-25% is kind of where it's running.
Higher than what I would have thought.
We're about 65 to 70 kids right now at College Hill.
That are doing online.
They're online at this point. But we're going to be making
Higher than
some
what I
phone
would have
calls. We're going to make sure they understand the requirements. We still have some phone calls to make.
Right.
And so that's ongoing.
When the numbers first came out, it was running about a third, so it must come down.
It has come down a little bit, but typically from my campus, a lot of the parents will come on the first day of school to register. They want to do it in person, and so we'll accommodate them as well. We'll begin registration at 10 o'clock on the first day of school, and we'll have areas set up for them to register and have assistance. But our numbers are pretty low for this time of year.
Yeah, we've been calling every day, and today we've actually had some parents have come to the campus to register. So it's a good opportunity for us to tell them about the differences, and so it's been good.
And I see Dr. Sanchez mentioned, like my first and second, our numbers are low, so we have plenty of room to take a virtual teacher and put those in and still have space to accept more kids. But my 3rd grade is very tight. If I have a virtual online teacher and I disperse those students, then those classrooms go over 22. So my 3rd grade is still up in the air to possibly online go to another campus and keep face-to-face. So again, it's very fluid, and it just depends. So we're just monitoring it day by day, half a day check, after school check, it changes every time.
Teachers just thought they were flexible.
Right, that's what I told them when I met with them. We met with them as a group, just in a pod, and I said, well, we're gonna be flexible beyond being flexible. We're always flexible, but this year will be slightly different.
After the presentation yesterday, I picked up 23 last night, overnight, so that was a good plug. I kept telling you, plug registration. So yes, it worked. But I still have 107 who haven't registered. A lot.
All right, thank you. Next, go ahead and introduce the next.
Thank you for allowing me to make this introduction. This is our middle school staff.
Gotta have a little, right?
Gotta do something.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Richie's nominated me,
They're-
so.
They're just making the decision who's going to be the spokesperson.
I know. Well, he pointed at me first, so I guess it's me. So our decision, stop that, Mr. Brown. Our decision with online learning, it looks very different than the elementary. Just because we have multiple different grade levels with multiple different subjects, we've got electives. So we sent out a survey, Mr. Thornton at Estacado and I at Coronado, asking teachers what they would prefer. We gave them options of everybody keeps their own kids, and that's who you teach, whether they're online or they're in person. Everybody's roster stays the same. Master schedule stays the same. Offered to level out the online learners because it would not be fair if Mr. Thornton has 10 kids in his class and I have 20 and he has 15 virtual kids. So we tried to even those numbers out and level those kids. So he might have 5 online learners or 10. I would have 10 as well. And then our class counts are about the same. So we sent that survey out to teachers saying you can choose your own kids. We gave them the pros, the cons. Mr. Brown, everyone looked at that survey to see where we are. We also gave them the option of we're going to pick a teacher for, say, English or a teacher for math. And they're the online teacher. And you get 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math. You get 6th, 7th, and 8th grade ELAR. That was not chosen. I think a lot of people considered that, but we also asked them, if we're going to go that way, who's going to volunteer? And I had a science teacher say, everybody I knew in my group picked keep your own kids, and I'm thinking, it would be better to have one teacher, and then he thought, but they answered all that question, no, so that's me. And he's like, I can't teach 6th grade science and 7th grade science and 8th grade science yet. So that was, I'm sure, a deciding factor for them. Our classes have set up, most of our all of our tested grade levels have a PLC, and they also have a conference period. So it was very easy for us to give them online students. They have extra time in their day to plan, to comment on student work, to meet, to schedule parent meetings. It gets a little tricky with other teachers that don't have that option. Our non-tested subjects don't have that option. But we were able to move on my campus, Richie can speak for his, to some smaller classes that we had that had some small numbers in them, some reading enrichment classes, perhaps a math enrichment class. We had a Spanish, in my situation, we had Mr. Garcia who teaches a math enrichment for us. It had 5 or 6 kids in it. We moved those kids out. We're able to give Mr. Garcia an extra conference period. So where we could give extra conference periods, we gave them. We have an intervention time. When every day, what we did there to give people more time is if you did not have an extra conference period, we moved your kids out of WIN. They're going to go to somebody else for intervention, and you're going to have that time to interact with students as well. We try to give everybody enough time during the school day to fill their online obligations. It has been challenging, but I think we've done that. As far as training goes, I have teachers here if you need to ask them questions. If you want to in a minute about training. Robin and her staff have been at both middle schools. Mine on the 4th, Richie's on the 6th, have provided great training on Google Classrooms levels 1, 2, and 3. They did Edpuzzle. We've done GoFormative. We did Screencastify, Flipgrip, Nearpod, another one. So teachers loved that training that we did on the 4th. We got very positive feedback. They feel like they can go in with some tools that they can use both online and in the classroom.
I would say when we gave the teachers the option to choose between if they just handled their own or if one teacher handled the load, about over 60% of the teachers chose to handle their own. Really shows the capacity of that group. They felt like that they understood Google Classroom. When we looked at the 16 teachers at Estacado that chose the other option to have one person do it, 7 of those 16 teachers chose to be the online person. So they certainly have the capacity in Google Classroom. So it left me with 9 teachers that I thought, okay, these are the 9 that feel, I need to really look at to check capacity. 3 of those are very good at Google Classroom, so I felt good about that. So it kind of narrowed down a focus of who needs the most support. When we got the teachers back on campus, we started talking to them and finding out where they were, because they're our lifeblood, and we want them happy, and we want them confident and feeling like they have the capacity to do the task at hand. I think that's been very, very encouraging. The teachers know it's going to be messy, and they just ask that we train them properly and that we allow them time to do it. And we built in that time in our schedule, so that was a master schedule nightmare. However, if we had chose the other option, as students started coming back into school, it was going to be a master schedule. It was probably going to be a reboot of the master schedule. And that's just scary to think of. So we feel very confident about the decision that was made, and I think our teachers do too.
We've had staff development all week. The staff has been just, okay, whatever you tell us we'll go do. They've been really wonderful with new teachers and taking them in. We have some new teachers that are already, I had one list to me today, what she's doing in Google Classroom, and I just looked at her and said, can you go get that done? We're going to do this, we're going to do this, and I have these slides made, and the kids can interact here, and I'm, okay, you go to get that done. And so some of our young staff is very proficient. Some of our veteran staff is very proficient. We also have some very young staff that's not. We have some veteran staff. If it was me sitting there, after 20-something years, I might be hitting the panic button too, because I haven't done that before. But we've got people all around the building with the support of Robin's team that we think we can get done what we needed to. We had team meetings today, went over some things. They're telling me we're going to do this on the first couple of days. We'll start with content on the second week, and they're rolling through it.
And I promised mine just the gift of time, that if we get into it and they need more time, that if we need to get some half-day subs, the district, then we'll do it, and we'll let the 8th grade teachers get together in the morning and the 7th grade or something and give them the time to prepare. The bright spot of this, and I think all our teachers recognize that, is when we come through this, our capacity within Google Classroom is going to be amazing. That means any kid that goes to an extracurricular activity, their lessons probably posted online. They can get it. They don't have to go back to the teacher. That part is pretty amazing. The teachers see the power in that.
And what growth for teachers. For those of us that have been in education a long time, you get stuck in a rut occasionally of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I think we have the opportunity to push a little change out into the classrooms. And everybody learn that. And everybody have a new tool in their tool belt for kids.
And really the final selling point was, what if they shut us down? If we only had few of our teachers trained, how are you going to educate 650 kids on each of our campuses? Now it's just, we've built the capacity. If they shut us down, we'll just keep right on with school. We'll just all be online. So
I think another positive, if there is one that happened this spring, it was the collaboration between campuses. We did all of that together. It was like one junior high, which is what we're hoping for anyway. Some teachers built some great relationships, and we've had conversations this week. Is it okay if I contact the campus from Estacado and see what they're doing? Absolutely. We've worked together all summer. Let's do that and divide and conquer. So they've been great.
And I think that's encouraging for our public to hear. Is just Rachel and I talk
every day,
multiple times every day, and we've shared the capacity within our staff, our admin team, because to get all the work that's had to be done, we've had to divvy up the work, and that's what is trickling down to the teachers. Through the training today that we were having on Google Classroom, they were talking about, well, I'll just share this with my counterpart at Coronado. They can share within Google Classroom or whatever app that they're using, and really divide and conquer, share each other's lessons and things like that. So some good collaboration will comes from it.
How are the sub lists looking? You mentioned that.
Well, y'all
I
were
know-
gracious
I know
enough.
did
We have 3.
And was every campus able to?
I got my
provide
3.
those?
Did you get yours?
I got mine. You know, I don't know what the rest of the pool, sub-pool's gonna look like, but having the 3 right there is gonna be huge, for those calls that you get at 7:30 and I'm running fever. Well, don't come to school, we got you.
And they've been in trainings with us. They were offered the same Google training as everyone else. They've attended those sessions. They've been in all of our just Coronado sessions, and then we put them to work this afternoon. Again, like Vicki said, we've taken everything that we can off their plate and given them time to say, go play and go get with your team.
That was kind of the fears that I kept hearing is, we're gonna have all this training.
No, they're
we're
not.
gonna get a class."
We have cut it down to this is what has to happen, and then the rest we've just let go. We'll pick it up in a staff meeting or whatever. There's time for that, because if not, we're gonna panic them, and that's not what we want to do. Robin, you want anything?
Yeah, I think. So what you have in front of you, you have a sample middle school schedule. You also have a sample high school. So maybe I'll transition between the 2 group here. So secondary, we know, looks very different depending on what your student chooses to participate in. So based on electives, athletics, band, choir, that changes your master schedule options. So again, this is just a sample. Depending on grade level, that lunchtime changes, the intervention time changes as well. So you have that on the front. What you have behind that, the Texas Education Agency provided us with a rubric of best practices for asynchronous learning. They even leveled it out, bare minimum, average, and above average. So we took the rubric, and of course we are all very competitive in the secondary world. If you're gonna play, we're gonna play to win. So we took the 3rd above average column and said, what does it take to have an outstanding program both in our classrooms, which we strive for every day, as well as to have good asynchronous learning for our students who are at home. So what you have on those next couple of pages is the indicator on the right-hand side for what it took to be at that top level. The middle column is a general explanation for grades 6 through 12. What our campuses are doing compiled together in the secondary world. The blue box discusses specifically the instructional schedule and how that looks. The kind of orange-colored box discusses material design. We do have our essential skills that we have to teach in each grade and content. So how are we ensuring that we do that face-to-face as well as online? The green box discusses student progress. How are we going to monitor student progress? And our heart has been all of the secondary together. How can we equip teachers with the capacity to make one really good lesson that can be delivered face-to-face and also can be delivered online? Since our teachers are working both roles, we didn't want teachers having to make 2 separate lesson plans. So we have really tried to build up their foundational skill set and then add those options that are available. If you are that rock star teacher, you have lesson planning down, you have formative assessments down, then let me add this online tool that lets you take what you already know and do well in class and deliver it online. If you're new to learning online or delivering online, then we're going to provide you that basic foundation so that you can feel solid and I have the ability to do this to meet my kids' needs, regardless of where I'm teaching them at. So we talk about that in that green box a little bit, and then it extends into kind of the purpley colored box that talks about implementation. So if you're kind of interested in what we've provided teachers to build this capacity, the last 3 pages are actually a screenshot from a Google Classroom. I got to thinking, I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to see, we talk about Google Classroom, we talk about learning, what does that actually look like? So in secondary, we created over the summer, and this will actually, if you want to see where I'm talking, it's on the back side of your first Google Classroom page. Kind of holding it up if you need a visual. It says PISD Blended Learning 101. So we went all through the internet, we read the blogs, we did the research, and we figured out what is it that if I'm a teacher, I'm hearing I need to deliver online. What does that mean? What does it involve? What is the terminology I'm seeing on different websites I might be a part of? So we broke it down into 6 pieces and took it just step by step. We created Screencastify videos, so we have walked in the shoes of the teachers. We know exactly what they're going to experience. We put together a little tips and tricks. If you're going to video, let us show you some of our faux pas that we learned the hard way, trial and error. Learn from our mistakes. If you want it, use it. Fabulous. If you don't, that's okay too. So you can see like Module 3 got into communication. We created a sample syllabus because we had parents that were already requesting, can I have a syllabus for an online class? That wasn't something we had always required. So we created a sample and kind of discussed, what is a syllabus? What do you put on a syllabus? And had links to different contents. Module 5 got into lesson planning. So we researched different types and different ways to plan one time that would accomplish both purposes, and we put those documents in there. So everything has slides with step-by-step. Every module has a video of those slides with further explanation, and every module has additional handouts that you can go reference, the tips and tricks, the basic steps as well as extension opportunities. You will see in there we split Google Classroom into level 1, 2, and 3. We already had several secondary teachers that were trained in Google and using Google last school year. So the transition in March was an easier process for them. We had some in March that were learning it for the very first time and really leaned on a colleague to help them through. So we thought it was important this summer to give every teacher that differentiated opportunity. The same way we ask our kids, figure out where your student is and teach them from that point. We wanted to do the same thing for teachers. So we said, where are you in your knowledge? Let us meet you there and help you get to the next level. So we have all of these trainings in the Google Classroom, as well as what Richie and Rachel mentioned, and then we will be at high school tomorrow. We are providing all of these same trainings in a face-to-face setting that teachers are getting to choose. Do I need a little more help with someone physically with me in the classroom? Or hey, you know what? I've got Google Classroom down solid. I'm gonna go to level 3 because I'm ready to take it to the next. And then I'm gonna go see Edpuzzle because I don't like the video format here. I wanna see it in person. So we've spent a lot of time really listening to teachers, asking for input. The survey results from Coronado were wonderful. It totally made our heart happy. We had a lot of great comments. Even teachers saying, can you do this once a month? That's not what you always find with teacher PD. So that to us meant we have listened, we've heard you, we've provided what you need, so that teachers can now go and deliver those TEA requirements and do it well. Feel great about it. So questions about any of that? No?
Our teachers will love it, but they're here to
Yes.
want a teacher perspective. Y'all want to come up? Come on, girlies. They're like, no. They're gonna throw. They're wonderful. I have Megan Wisenhunt, 7th grade ELAR. I have, Megan is going to, she's been with us a year and a half, so new teacher. Audrey Varela, 8th grade math. Audrey was with us, well, she started in January, so 3 months. And then Kylie, how long have you been with us?
8 years, I think.
Kylie Middleton, 8th grade science, 8 years. So they're going to be, I'm going to owe them a Sonic drink, I'm sure, in front of all of you. But I will. But if you have questions, we'll be glad to answer.
How do y'all feel? Do y'all feel like y'all are prepared?
Absolutely. We feel Robin and her team have definitely prepared us, given us a lot of information that'll help set our students up for success, but also ourselves.
And I think the extra, not having PD the entire time has helped. For science, we've been able to plan a whole week's worth of lessons already, and that was just this morning. And so we feel very comfortable because we've been able to use Google Classroom in the past. So, and we're offering our help to any new teachers as well if they need help for Google Classroom.
Our English team has been working we do a lot of writing in 7th grade, and so we've been having to figure out how we're going to transfer in-person writing into an online setting. And so we've been working through those kinks, and having the time has definitely taken a lot of that pressure off. we're not having to live up at the school right now, which is nice.
All right, well, we'll let y'all get back and Ms. Long get you your sign.
I will, I promise.
As long as the secondary or the secondary numbers for online.
They're running
You
about,
said 22.
running right at about 22%.
About 120 at each campus.
It's
chosen
close.
At this point.
Largest class is 6th grade, which that's to be expected. We've had a few more 8th graders join. The number was low. We had a call yesterday from a parent that Ms. Walker talked to that was requesting technology. She had 4 students. Ms. Walker, in about a 2-minute conversation after saying, these are our expectations, this is what this is going to look like at the elementary and junior high. More importantly, they were concerned about safety. So she listed all of our safety protocols, hand sanitizer, how we're separating kids, masks, and hung up and she said, I'm sending all 4 of mine to school, they'll be there. Can y'all change my registration? So we've made call outs, our staff, office staff has called for registration purposes. We're down to a small number, but we've made individual phone calls to parents. We've made call outs to people that are online, just showing our expectations, as well as Dr. Sanchez said, social media posts all the time.
That's really good. I've seen all of those, so.
Okay, thank y'all.
I think the biggest, there was a lot of information in there, but if the board will bear in mind, and this is something that centrally we're also going to support and defend. Mr. Thornton made the statement about grace, that if anybody comes in and says, well, you know, I'm online and the instruction isn't what I thought it would be, I thought it would be crisper, or clear, or easy to read, or easier to understand. I mean, I think it's our job to say, we believe our teachers are doing an amazing job. We believe our teachers are working hard. We believe that they're doing a great job. Thank you for that. But we stand by our teachers. We think they're doing a great job. So, I mean, I just encourage everybody that we understand the level of grace that has to be given in this. And in turn, I think our teachers with students who are trying and struggling but are logging on and are on there, we'll give them that. And at the point in time they come back on campus, we'll welcome them back. And we'll have intervention in place as well. Yesterday, all the campus principals were notified that they received anywhere from an extra $20,000 to $60,000 in funding to be able to hire an interventionist and other support. And we encourage them to begin making plans to use that funding ASAP and get those things set up. All right, we have high school.
No introduction.
I won't make you, I mean,
No
everybody,
no introduction needed for these.
He's the floral artist here.
I'm Brent Reagan, I'm the high school principal. So thank you for the opportunity to kind of go over our plan at the high school with you. It's been a good start this week with our faculty, and there is stress and there's anxiety, but that's normal, I think, every August as we regroup and get ready for a new school year. Of course, COVID has added to that this month, but from where we were in the spring when all of this stuff hit us at once, and the plans that we had to throw together quickly, and we had a lot of support in doing so, I would say our stress levels are much less than they were in the spring. That's a little bit of a different situation at the main campus because we have so many of our faculty that pre-COVID already worked off the Google Classroom platform. And it was a tool that they used all the time. And that takes place a lot because we have so many students involved in extracurricular activities, UIL events, so that they're not always on campus. If you've been on our campus on Thursdays and Fridays, you will notice that we usually have a lot of subs in there because we have coaches out, we have students out, and that's a norm for the high school in what we do. So it is a great tool for students to be able to, if they're not able to be in class, and even if it's because of illness, that they're still able to communicate with their teachers and know, you know, what was happening in class that day, what the expectations are for assignments to be turned in, when assessments will be taken. And teachers really like that tool because it allows students, even from home, to submit assignments, and we turn zeros into numbers and get those grades turned in. So that's a good thing. So we came to a fork in the road when we found out this summer that yes, we're going to be offering online instruction. And initially, our thoughts were, when we heard about the possibility of assigning a teacher in either a department or in a content area, that sounded like a really good idea. And then the more it started to sink in and the more that we analyzed looking at that, it's, well, first of all, CTE, those people are very specialized in what they do. And it just was not going to be an option in the CTE area. The other thing that we started thinking about is what's going to be best for students. And looking at that question first, we believe it offers students more stability to have that same teacher consistently throughout the school year, whether they have opted for online learning or face-to-face. And the possibility of going back and forth throughout the school year, having that same person is a stabilizing factor for our kids. The second idea, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, where it was a really great resource for teachers to have prior to COVID, and they did utilize it. Not 100% of our faculty did prior to COVID, but it was such a great tool. Now, since COVID's happened, we're realizing the magnification of Google Classroom and how critically important it is now, not just as a resource, but it's really something at the high school level that we need to have right there for that. The other thing is the master schedule. If we were to have just one person from each department or content area take on the online learners, then we kind of start to lose control of class counts. And it would fluctuate. It could be too low, it could be too high. But we would lose a little bit of control with that. And the biggest determining factor for us that we thought was critical, if that call comes where our doors are closed to students and we have to go online 100%, that would mean all teachers would have to be responsible for their online learners. And the thought of that transitional period with people that might not be quite ready was a little bit scary. It would have been rougher. Our faculty, I'm going to let Mr. Fitzgerald come up here and kind of give you an idea of how we went about deciding our categories for training. We're fortunate on the high school campus because 35% of our faculty came out in the survey as expert in Google Classroom. So we have our own trainers on campus, and that's what they're doing. They started that yesterday. They're doing that now. And our biggest group, and Daniel has the numbers, are our intermediate category teachers. And then with our first year teachers, most of whom are new to the profession. Technology has never been anything that they're afraid of. Most of them are familiar with Google Classroom or something near to it, Blackboard on the college level. So they've been in it from the student side. Now they're transitioning into the teacher side. But I'm going to let Daniel kind of go over what that was. And then we've also brought 4 of our teachers up here, and we would really welcome Q&A with them. So, Daniel.
Good afternoon. I'm Daniel Fitzgerald. I'm the Associate Principal of Teaching and Learning at the high school. And in front of you guys, I put a PHS Google Classroom survey so that y'all could see what our teachers had received. We wanted to make our training, because we are so expansive at the high school. We have 9 departments ranging from anywhere from 10 to 20 people within those departments. So really doing one size fits all is really hard for us. And so we tried to do a lot of tailored trainings and a lot of breakout sessions. If you look at the survey results, this is the survey that we sent out to the staff. We presented them with, here are specific characteristics that a beginner can do. Here are specific characteristics that an intermediate person could do. And here are specific characteristics that someone who is advanced can do. And the reason we wanted to be that detailed was because a lot of times I may think I'm advanced and looking at this and those tasks, I may actually be a beginner. Or I may think that I'm a beginner, and some people looked at this and realized, okay, I'm more of an intermediate or more advanced. I've been doing these things. So on that back page, you guys will see the data that came out for us. As Mr. Reagan said, we ended up with close to 17% as a beginner, close to about 50% intermediate, and then 35% were advanced. And this was close to 100 people who took the survey. And so we were really encouraged by that data, because that shows that a lot of our teachers already had a solid foundation. And we really believe, like Mr. Reagan said, the best training that teachers can get is from their neighbors and from collaboration. We will provide the training, we will provide, most importantly, the time, but we have found that when someone new enters our building or someone is a beginner, there's always a helping hand. I know it was the same way when I taught at the high school. There's always a helping hand and someone that is going to try to raise the level of that person. No one is made to feel like, just because I'm a beginner, no one's scared to admit that. We had people yesterday doing one-on-one trainings with teachers who really just needed that targeted, I would like to say, intervention when it comes to Google Classroom. And so, as we had said, this week we really tried to tailor our trainings to these specific levels. I know that Robin and her team, and then our exceptional ed, our 504, and then our language acquisition department has put on some fantastic trainings over the last couple of weeks and resources. I know I'll pick on Kiana. We brought a first-year teacher with us. Not that there's enough stress to deal with, but I know she was so complimentary of the training they had gone through last week in New Hire, because they actually got to practice giving a lesson to their peers. And so that was really cool to be able to practice it before you actually do it with students, and it was a virtual lesson. And so we have really tried to tailor, like we had said, our information to our staff so that they would have that ability to do it. Yesterday we broke into departments, and they spent most of the day working through the Google Classroom training. And then, as Robin had said, tomorrow we're offering a mini conference, and it's going to have 12 speakers, and it's ranging anywhere from Nearpod to classroom management in a virtual classroom setting, Screencastify, Edpuzzle. There's going to be a lot of virtual tools, and our staff really likes when they have that ability to choose and get to go to something that's going to help them. As far as with our students, I think last numbers we checked were about 18%. And a big part of why that number has come down is because our counselors have called those students who were in some of those CTE courses, like welding and some of those things, and had individual conversations with parents about, hey, here's some of the ramifications of if they don't come to school. They're having to change their endorsement, and they're having those conversations so that the parent and the student has all of the facts to make an informed decision what's best for their child. And so we have actually gained a lot of students back from those counselor phone calls. All right, we're going to bring our teachers up, and we're going to let them introduce themselves and say a little something to you, and then they are ready for questions. They welcome them.
The teacher of the year up first.
Great speech maker.
I'm Rebecca Owens. I teach Algebra 1 and 2 at Plainview High School. This is my 6th year teaching, and I just want to say that I am honestly excited this school year to, well, first off, to teach. I feel like I haven't taught since March, and that is alarming for me. But also to really see these kids and get to meet them where they're at and grow them. So I'm pretty excited to even grow with them as I learn how to teach virtually and in person. So thank you for having me.
My name's Kiana Maroquin. I'm the first year teacher that he was talking about. I'm teaching English 1 and ESOL. I just want to say that I'm so excited that I'm going to get to interact with all of my students, whether they're learning at home or in person with me. So I'm super excited about Google Classrooms.
I guess I'm the old one here. I am starting my 23rd year, my 3rd year at the high school. I am CTE, I'm Kim Hairsnake, I'm sorry. CTE, I do the human growth and the teaching pathway. And I'm ready to see these kids. I'm ready to, like we had talked about, build those relationships. That's why we chose to keep our kids, to build those relationships. So we know who still needs us and where we can bring them up at.
I'm Ryan Green. I am starting my 10th year at the high school. I teach U.S. history, and I'm going to echo what they said. You know, I'm just excited to be back in the classroom, have the kids back, being able to teach again, because a lot of these kids, you see them maybe at the park or at the grocery store, wherever, but it's not the same. And so just getting to see the kids again and have them back in classes is what I'm looking forward to, even though we're having to wear these masks. This is the most normal things have been since March, so that's what I'm excited about, just getting back in the routine. So.
One of the things that I would offer about this week, Daniel talked about we've got 3 levels of instruction as far as Google Classroom goes. And our focus, of course, is with the beginning level, because we know that we've got to get them off the ground. Now, the idea is once we start school, that doesn't stop, because, you know, whether you're intermediate, beginner, or where you fall in that realm, we want to try to get our teachers up to the next level. And we know that during the course of the school year, these people that start as beginners are going to probably quickly advance to the intermediate level. And that's going to be a benefit to them as a teacher, and more importantly, that's going to be great for our kids. And as far as the kids coming in, our biggest challenge really will be our freshman class, because our sophomores, juniors, and seniors are familiar with Google Classroom. Our freshmen, not so much so, but we will get them up to pace pretty quickly. But anyway, we appreciate the opportunity to talk to y'all.
And what's really cool for us at the high school is we're really pushing the blending learning model, so that it's not just us preparing for our asynchronous learners at home, but that this knowledge is translating to a blended classroom where we're using these tools daily in our face-to-face instruction. Because I know when I was teaching, you put something digital, something interactive with middle school and high school kids, and now even elementary kids, that they really get into it. And so a lot of our teachers are using this in their daily instruction, so it's not just a separate thing like we're preparing for our online learners. We've really pushed that we want this to be something that helps you in your classroom and can be when COVID's over, hopefully.
I just have a quick question. I know elementary and secondary all talked about being able to give their teachers more time to plan and transition. Are y'all able to do that at the high school as well?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, one of the approaches that we took, and we had talked to Rachel and Richie about this. And, you know, usually when you go into the fall or to the August trainings, there's a lot of detailed things that you're trying to do. So I think what we did at secondary, I know that elementary did the same thing. It's all about prioritizing what we've really got to do to get ready for kids. And the other stuff will follow suit, because if we're not ready for that, and we know even if we're ready, there's going to be bumps and unknowns happen that we're going to have to adjust to along the way. But one of the things that really helped our teachers, and we explained that to them on Monday, look, our whole focus this week is preparation for kids. So there's not going to be so much of the detailed stuff that's unrelated to this type of school year that is an enhancement to our teachers, but it's going to be about let's get the priority items taken care of. And by doing so, that really lowers the stress level a lot. Do y'all have any other questions for us? Or?
I know you mentioned that the counselors were calling the CTE students. I'm sure y'all are, but the other students that aren't in CTE, the ones that haven't registered, are those getting calls too, or?
Counselors will be talking to everyone, but specifically they were talking to CTE kids, because the difference between CTE and the UIL, you know, that was made known. You can be in choir or you can be in football and still be online. You just will not be able to practice or participate in competitions. But in CTE, the reason that we needed to call those students is because that would require a schedule change. For example, if they were in advanced welding, or they were in culinary, or they were in CNA, and They thought, no, I'm going to be online. Okay, well, that's fine, but if you are online, we're going to need to find a replacement course for you. So that schedule change needed to happen before the start of school. So that's the reason that was a priority contact with those counselors.
So we started with the schedule changes, and then once we know the other students that didn't have a schedule change, that's where teachers will establish that initial contact with that student, get them set up in their room and with their Google Classroom and anything else that student needs. But we started with the kids because, you know, at high school, schedule change is a pretty big deal, and so we started with those kids first. Do you have any teacher questions? They prepared, ready.
I know we've talked a lot about the virtual learning. So what are some of the concerns or worries maybe that you're hearing as far as the kids actually showing up next Wednesday? What are some of your bigger concerns or worries there?
Whether or not they show up. That's the biggest thing, is just making sure that they're there at some point during the day.
I'd like to echo that. I guess I'm most concerned about students. And I know the school board has done an excellent job. Thank you so much for publishing content about how the fall semester is not going to be like the spring semester online. But I'm most concerned that I'm going to have some students that decide, oh, I'm online, so I don't have to do anything. So that's my biggest concern.
And something we're doing, because you got to be very clear with high school kids, because they will find loopholes with things. And so one thing we're doing across the board is an attendance ticket per class. And so our teachers will be taking attendance each day, and we're calling it an attendance ticket. So it could be in their group for the asynchronous learners. It could be a multiple choice question, an exit ticket, a do now. It could be, how was your weekend? Just something that, it's not the grade, it's the attendance part, just to get them engaged daily with their classrooms. And it's very cut and dry across the board and name the same thing in all courses.
The last thing I would offer on things as far as student orientations go, when our kids come to us next Wednesday, the teachers are going to have them all day. We're going to be doing our accounting, you know, by grade level for PEIMS purposes. But when we get to Thursday, we understand that real instruction is not really going to get underway that week. So we are going to have class orientations Thursday and Friday. You know, freshmen again, even though they've kind of had an orientation already. Same thing with sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And we're going to cover everything. We do this every year. It's going to be more lengthy because of the COVID requirements, because of the way we want them to enter the building, because of the importance of online learning, whether they're face-to-face, still understanding the Google Classroom. So a lot of different points are going to be covered with each class. It's going to involve counselors, teachers, and administrators. And it won't be just a quick trip to the auditorium for 20 minutes and out. It's probably going to be closer to a 90-minute session for each class. So that will begin. We think it's important to really cover the bases as well as we can before we get underway that first full week of school.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Wallace. Administrator, please encourage your teachers if they need to get back to campus to get to work. We appreciate them coming in and spending time with us.
Dr. Richburg, I was wondering if you could pull up the one that says virtual classroom with links. Virtual classroom with links. ASH is a little bit different. We decided, we had the mindset of every teacher will wash their hands the same. There's some different with that. And so this will help students be at ease. No matter which teacher they go to, everything will be set up the same. And this will help with our exceptional learners. This will even help with our teachers being able to collaborate with each other. The first thing we had to get across was the students will not be placed in Apex. Only students that will be placed in Apex are the ones that are assigned for credit recovery. In the spring, we place all of our students in Apex, no matter what. And so with Apex, the students were allowed to work on their work at basically any time of the day, as long as they get it done. Some students waited to the last week to get everything done. We knew it was going to happen. I mean, because it's done almost every semester with some. But with this, it was getting the information out. This is not the same. This is not the same. Some students call, I want online, and we told them it's not Apex, and said, okay, we'll come to school then. It was that simple with that. Each teacher has been given a partner to help with the virtual classroom setup. That teacher will help with the maintaining on the online portion. Thank you, that one. Okay, and also at times help with the in-person teaching with this. Every teacher is required to set up a Bitmoji classroom at ASH. Every teacher. Every teacher is required to have basically the same thing in each class. Okay? If a student, this will be dropped in the Google Classroom, if you hover over my Bitmoji, when a student clicks on that Bitmoji, it's an email that will be sent to the teacher if they need help. And we're going to have it where it can be sent to the classroom teacher and the partner teacher, so that the partner teacher can help with the do now, the class attendance, with that part. If you click on the laptop, and I actually want you to click on the laptop if you can, every teacher will have a laptop in their classroom. So no matter which classroom they go to, if you click on the laptop, it has to be on Tuesday. Go back to Tuesday, and right, and click on the laptop. Well, you don't have access. Okay, I'm sorry. It worked all week. Okay, it worked all week. Okay, but when they click on it,
I'm not in his classroom.
Yeah,
That's why it's not popping
that's
up.
problem. And what happened is when he click on the laptop, the actual instruction will pop up. The video, there's a video that's hyperlinked to it. All right, the clock represents the do now. So whichever classroom they go in, they click on that clock, they have a do now activity. The books will be the class setup, the framework, the syllabus. Each teacher will be required to do that for each course. So the student will know, the parent will know. Okay, the airplane I just threw in there because it had music on there, celebration. Okay, on the desk is like notes, and we can have it where you can do Dualis, where they can actually fill in the notes while they're watching the video. You can do a split screen. Okay, the backpack is the actual assignment. They will click on there. So every classroom will have the same thing. We will wash our hands the same, so there's no confusion. By doing it this way, we were able to collaborate and iron out the wrinkles, because it started with an idea. Can we do this? This is what I'm thinking. Can we do this? And it started off and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking. And the last thing, but not the least thing, every classroom will have that chalkboard where it has the content and language objective posted each day. Now, the cool thing about this is we have it in Google Slide, and it's separate. They already have it for the 9 weeks. All this is created for the 9 weeks. They already did this. But the nice thing about it is we can actually drop it at a certain time. Like, we were worried about the student completing everything in one day. So we can schedule it where it will drop and they will gain access on Monday. You will gain access to this on Tuesday. You will gain access on Wednesday, on Thursday, or Friday, so that they cannot complete everything at one time. So that has helped, okay? It has helped with the teachers, with Misty, with Keisha, with James. I mean, because like I said, it started off, even with Alyssa Carter said, okay, can we hyperlink this? And she said, yes, there is a way. So, like I said, even our discipline teachers are helping with this. Because they're going to be, right now we have 2 students in the discipline setting. So they're going to be partnered up with the teachers. So they're going to help with the actual hyperlinking and stuff like that. Teachers have already, in a sense, downloaded their lesson plans from last year's Forethought, and we're able to hyperlink a whole week's lesson plan to the lesson plan template. So we have already started on that part, okay? I mean, at ASH, we always thinking outside the box. Now, what's nice about this is students that may be placed in a discipline setting, they're going to use the online version from each campus. Now, what helps us is if we ever have to send a student to ISS, we don't have to send any paperwork. It's all online. It's instant. It is very instant. So that is what we are doing. But I want you to hear from the teacher. And I brought James and Lakeisha Thompson. So Dr. Richburg, if you could pull up Mr. Pittman's, the one that was pulled up earlier. And you'll see how the classroom is set up. Like I said, we are washing our hands the same way. And I'll let them speak.
Which one?
Dr. Richburg, you want to see if Rodney can log in, that way maybe...
Well, I've got it. Which is Mr. Pippin's? Which 4 or 5 things named? Is it?
While they're doing that, I'm James Pittman. I'm the math department over at ASH. This is my 4th year in the district. And Rodney said, we think outside the box. Sometimes we don't even have a box. We go. So as you can see my room up here, my bookshelf are those 2 rainbow heads because it just looked cool to me. It looked different. My clock is a Navigator clock because it's still math. And so the idea is to think different and to make those kids understand that you can think outside the box and still get our objective done.
I'm Lakeisha Thompson. I'm the CTE department at ASH, and we decided to do it this way because over at ASH, as James stated, we don't have a box. We're really not ever in the box. So each department we don't have multiple teachers on our department. So he's the math department, our English teacher is the English department. So in the event, like last spring, everyone went to, when we came out, everyone went to Apex. And we had a couple of us that had already been doing Google Classroom, so we knew how to do Google Classroom. But for instance, our Apex teacher had no idea about Google Classroom. So when you had some of the kids wanting to do some of the things that did break off into Google Classroom, when those students waited to the last minute, she couldn't help them. So, but at this point now, if we are going to go out of the school at any point during PLC or even during my conference, if a student from James' class has a question, I can automatically tell them your lecture notes or your videos, you click on the laptop, because in all of our classrooms, you click on the laptop and that's where those are coming from. Well, I can't find my assignment today. Well, there's a backpack. Click on your backpack. That's where your assignment is for the day. So it's those type of things. You can split your screen. All of our students know how to split their screen already. So as on Mr. Wallace's screen, if Mr. Richburg was to split the screen, he'd be able to watch this video and do the fill-in notes, because the fill-in notes would come from clicking on the little desk tray that has paper in it. And that's where we're standing at that point, because then the fill-in notes would come up on that. And so he could watch the video of the lecture and fill in the notes, and then you have the notes, and then when you click on the backpack, your homework assignment or your classroom assignment comes up. So they all go hand in hand, and we can all just do this across the board, and it's really exciting. We're really getting into it. We're all on the same page. I can sit and help Pittman upload his, and he can sit and help me upload mine, or the teacher that's linked with me or we're shared with can also help me link some things to my page while we're getting this done. And as he said, it's really exciting because a lot of us already have lesson plans in Ejiofor or Forethought that we can already transfer over. Like as of right now, one of my classes, I already have the first month of my lesson plans done for one of my classes, because I just brought it over from my lessons from last year over into this year. And so this is how we done it. And so like he said, you have those that are staying at home and in the classroom. And it also coincides with getting kids ready to go into the college level, because it's almost exactly like Blackboard. You get into the electronic and the technology side of it, and they're already stepping into the process of knowing how to split a screen, listen to a professor and take notes at the same time. And so it's just not just for the ASH, but also getting them ready for the next level if they decide to go at that rate.
And I don't know if it'll have sound, but if you click play, see this is actual a video that I created 7 years ago that was saved. And so, and actually in Google, they have a part called Dualis, where it'll actually split the screen for you. You choose which format you want, and it will split and it will pop up. There are many extensions that are already with Google that we can use. There's, with the slides, I think it's called Translate, that can translate from English to Spanish for the teacher. There's many things out there. So we're looking at it, like I said, outside the box. With this, we do not have to, in a sense, create two different lessons. It's the same thing, no matter if they're in class, online. It's right there. And so that is what we have been working on. Starting, I think we started Tuesday afternoon. Once we got everything out the way, then we started. We just kept going, we kept going, we kept going, and then the idea will hit.
Jordy has a say-so in the area. So what you're gonna do is use your notes either on page.
So that's what we have at the ASH programs. Any questions for me or the teachers?
Very impressive.
Yeah, very interesting. What are your numbers as far as the online versus how many are coming?
Well, okay. Right now, we were supposed to have 26 to return to us that did not graduate this past year. So 26 were supposed to return. There were 11 that said they were going to be in person. Now, remember at ASH, the students enrolled throughout the semester. We just received about 8 or 9 yesterday. We're going to receive more probably next week. So the numbers are always changing. So they come to us from PHS. They have to go through PHS to get to ASH. So when we get the application, then we look at, okay, was this online? Was it in person? Okay. So this afternoon, my secretary is calling out because many of them said they want online, but we have to inform them, or do you still want online if the district is not providing the technology? Because there's a parent that called today, the technology, I received a call to say I can pick up technology. We said no. So our secretary is calling to make sure this is one. We had a student that called and said, hey, I'm living in Las Vegas. Can I do the online program? No. 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 He said, no. So with that, you never know what you're going to get. I mean, with that, he was with Plainview, but then during, when we were locked down or not having school, moved to Las Vegas and thinking that, okay, I'm there, can I still do an online part? No. So, but yes.
It was very impressive. I was looking at some of the other principals in the room going, so there you go.
And I'll let you know, it has been a lot of work. Like Keisha and I, in the last 2 days, have sat side by side saying, this idea worked, did you do this yet? And it's been a lot of just going around the corner of trying to figure out things here or there and collaborating with everyone, or else those bit emojis don't happen. So it's very much a family effort.
Right.
Thank you. The last few folks that we want to be sure that the board hears from are, because you hear from some of our parents who have exceptional education learners as well as EL students and 504 dyslexia students. And so we'll begin with Ms. Outery. She'll cover Ex-Ed, and then we'll go with Ms. Sanchez and save the best for last with Mr. Delgado.
All right. Y'all have a piece of paper that kind of outlines what we're going to do. And basically, in a nutshell, is whatever is in a student's IEP plan is what we have to provide. So whether it's inclusion, resource, speech therapy, any related service, it's going to be provided. So face-to-face and virtually. All of the ex-ed teachers and paraprofessionals, as well as all of the student support services staff, have been trained in the Google Classroom so that that can be utilized. All of the teletherapy will be done through Google Classroom. In the spring, they did it through Teams, but we wanted to change to Google so that the students that are doing all of their online learning through Google Classroom, it's an easy transition, that they just have to log on at a different time with that therapist, or with their inclusion teacher. All inclusion teachers will be made teachers in the general education classrooms so that they can go in, see what assignments have been assigned. They can make contact with that student, and they can either modify or provide different accommodations for each of those students that need it. All of the students in a self-contained classroom that utilize unique curriculum, there is an option for us to assign those things so those students can get home on from home and do the assignments through unique learning, which they would be doing more face-to-face in the classroom, but it would be the same activities and all of that, but it's already created digitally for them. All of the exceptional ed teachers will also have office hours so that they will have a time set every day so that if a parent needs extra help, they can contact that exceptional ed teacher. As far as admission review dismissal meetings, we have decided that we're going to start them virtually. All arts will be done virtually to start school with, just because that's always bringing extra people into our building, even though we're going to temperature check and everything. You know, most of our meeting rooms that we meet for arts are pretty small. And so if we're packing in all the different teachers and parents, social distancing is really going to be a challenge for a while. So we're going to do all of them virtually. We decided yesterday that we're going to do those through Zoom. One of the challenges in the spring was figuring out how to obtain signatures at the end of an ARD meeting. And so we did lots of emailing to parents, them giving back a written response in email, and then that was our documentation of acceptance in agreement to the ARD. We have found, though, that we have a number of parents that do not have email, and so trying to do that was a challenge. So we have Zoom, luckily, right now. They are offering the free version for all educators. You can sign in with your email address, and they will give you longer than the 40 minutes time limit for the free version, which is great because some of our ARDs go longer than that. Zoom was what we chose because it has a component where we're able to share the screen with parents, and they can sign it. They can sign it from a computer, an iPad. They can also sign from their phone. And that's really the only one that signs from a phone, because some of our people, that's how they do their art, is through their phone. So they can sign it, we give them control, they sign, we take control back. All of the exceptional ed teachers in Success Ed, there is a signature component in there. They are all getting their signatures in there so that when control is given to them, they just click their name and their signature already appears. Evaluations, reevaluations, we have a plethora of those to conduct now between now and January. There is about 101 that have to occur because of the school closure in the spring. So all the evaluation staff is getting geared up to figure out how they're going to manage all of that. The students that will be at home will also, if it's time for their reevaluation, or they were one of the ones, the 11 that we had already obtained consent for initial evaluation in the spring, we will have to contact their parents and see about them bringing them up here, maybe to our secure meeting room where it's been disinfected and clean and everything, where we'll have the plexiglass dividers and all of that, so to provide extra protection. But we're going to have to do that face-to-face. Those evaluations have to be face-to-face. So we will work with parents to get all of those done. We are purchasing the plexiglass dividers that can go on desks. And that are portable for all of our assessment staff and all of our therapy staff, so that, you know, it's really hard to do speech therapy and listen to articulation when you have masks on and we can't see their mouth move, or they can't see our mouth move to no mouth, their tongue and mouth placement. So we're providing those for all of the staff. The assessment staff will have that as well, because if they're trying to do that norm reference test, they've got to be able to hear that child. Putting a label on a student is extremely important and we're going to do everything we can to make sure we're getting it right. And so if we're doing it where it's muffled and you can't fully hear somebody respond, or they can't fully hear us, we don't want that to happen. So we want to be able to have the plexiglass divider so that we can do it without having to have masks on, but still provide that safety for our staff and our students. Other than that, they have been working very hard. I think all the staff, the new staff for Exceptional Ed has been trained in XLOGs this week and in Success Ed, so that they're going to hit the ground running with all of their new technology that they're going to be required to do. Nobody has seemed just over the moon stressed about it. The exceptional learner numbers are a little higher than some of the others. We have had about 423 registers so far, and 28%, 130 so far, are choosing to do online. But we do also have a large number of those students that have compromised immune systems, some health issues that coming to school their parents are concerned or doctors are concerned. So we're going to do the best we can to provide every service that they have in their art for them at home. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Hello. I wanted to provide you some information regarding the language acquisition department and our students. Currently, we have no ELs who have elected to do online that we are aware of. We have been making phone calls. The language acquisition department has actually been conducting home visits and conducting our assessments throughout the entire summer. The state had informed our department with our language assessments that we would have to be conducting those in person. So we had 25 students that met. Well, we're looking at meeting reclassification criteria, and we called each one of the individual families. We scheduled times for those families to come in, and we assessed those students. We did social distancing. That's something different than the other departments, but the state said due to our assessments, a lot of that, the students have a speaking portion. They also have a listening portion, and the state did not feel that that assessment could be given online. They've now kind of shifted gears now that the larger districts are kind of becoming hot, having different issues. But all of our assessments for our reclassification have been completed. We currently have a total of 50 students that we are needing to conduct new assessments on. They're new to the district. Right now, according to Elevation, we currently have 479 EL students in the district. So we've grown a little bit by almost 100 students that are coming in. So we are in the process of scheduling the meetings with the parents in order to bring the students in so that we can conduct those assessments. We have been reaching out to the campuses. I did make contact with some of our assistant principals. All of our assistant principals were trained to conduct the assessments. The assessments for pre-K through first grade take around 15 minutes because it's just listening and speaking. However, second grade through 12th grade can take up to 5 hours, and we have to test them in English and we have to test them in Spanish. So we are pulling in the assistant principals and we are working with them to set up the appointments so that we can assess our students. But we currently have 479 kids, so we're growing. And we have an additional 50 that we're needing to see if they'll qualify for EL services. In terms of our online services at the elementary, due to the finite number of bilingual certified teachers and their presence only being on 3 elementary campuses, parents who have an EL learner who select online instruction, who the student is to participate in the bilingual classroom, will be provided language support by an ESL certified teacher. And the reason behind that is because our bilingual teachers are preparing their lesson plans in English and Spanish, and we recently adopted the new reading adoption for them, so they're learning how to utilize the reading adoption. But like I've said, to date, and I've been praying my rosaries every morning, we have not had any of our EL students who have elected online. Students that are in our ESL program, which are currently at 3 of our campuses, will, if they elect online, will be receiving support by an ESL certified teacher. Our language acquisition coaches have been on the campuses. We have primarily focused on those with the bilingual classrooms. We're slowly making our way around to those with ESL classrooms. We've been meeting with the teachers, have scheduled Zoom meetings with the teachers during the summer, and what we have told, we highlighted our teachers based off of the needs that they said they had. So our coaches are going in, the teachers are leaving a list of items that they would like, if it's bulletin boards, if they want us to sort through their markers, their ABC numbers, or numbers, then our coaches are doing all of that work for the teachers so that they can have more time just to concentrate on the planning. We have been providing lesson planning assistance, and we also are providing resource and materials, and any additional training that the teachers are wanting, we're open to providing that also. On our secondary campuses at the middle school and high school level, we do not have bilingual education. We have ESL instruction. We currently district-wide have a total of 11 teachers who are needing to become ESL certified, and we are working with them. The district will still reimburse them once they pass their test. We're taking a look at providing reimbursement to place the certification on their certificate, and then we also help pay for the training, and then we provide them resources to study. But we do have 11 teachers right now this year that are working on becoming ESL certified. At the high school level, the majority of our teachers who are working with our EL learners are ESL certified. So they will be providing our students, whether they're online or face-to-face, with support. We do have paraprofessionals that are working with our EL learners at the secondary level. We have hired an additional paraprofessional that will work 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the high school, and she will also work on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Estacado. Now, I would like to share some information with you. Our ELs, in terms of our graduates, we had a 100% graduation rate this past year. So we are focusing on our seniors. Our EL paraprofessional worked really hard with the high school in order to get all of those that may have been behind the credits on target. So as of now, all of our students are on target moving towards graduation. Our goal is to keep the 100% graduation. So we've been making home visits. Anything that we have to do, we are doing to make sure that our kids and our teachers are supported. Our language acquisition team also is willing to provide intervention support. I have Christina Hernandez is excellent in biology, and so she's been providing support. We helped provide tutoring support for some of our students last year also. We have a specialized curriculum that we've obtained for students that are needing just a little bit more support in acquiring the English language. So our ESOL class, or English for Speakers of Other Languages, we have ESOL 1 and 2. We provided the teacher with all of the resources. She came into our office. I gave her pencils, markers. She took our, where's Edna? Okay, Edna's left. I gave it away. We had a chart holder, a chart paper holder, and we gave that away. Edna doesn't know that yet. When she goes in there, she'll see it.
She just left, so she didn't hear.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure she'll hear. She'll call. She'll say, Mary. I'm like, Mary gave it away. So we've been providing all of that. We had a Chromebook cart with 30 Chromebooks that we have provided to the high school also, so that our English learners can have the materials that they need there. We also have our iPads that we're able to provide them in order to help them with the translating what they need. And then also I've been going out. I haven't blown up a computer yet. I was the Geek Squad during the summer. People were scared. I was like, I'm coming to help you with your technology needs. And then also Jeff came and conducted a lot of the home visits with me. But we learned a lot, and we do have a lot of support. So it really just letting the parents know that we're willing to do whatever is needed in order to make sure that our English learners are supported. But we had 100% graduation, guys. That was really good. They had their little cakes and everything. They look so cute. So, but thank you for your time. You always make me nervous. I'll let Jeff come up, since he's the best for 7th.
Oh, yeah. I met the ESOL teacher. That was the first year teacher from the high school who came up, a young lady, Ms. Marroquin, right?
Marroquin, yes.
Yeah. So she's the ESOL teacher that got all that stuff.
All right, I have going to go over the dyslexia service online services. We are using, like everybody else, the Google Classroom platform. We are looking for numbers right now. I have copied over 50 notebooks, getting ready to go online, and we're trying to decide if they need book 1, book 2, book 3, because every kid has a different IEP plan. So once we figure that out, we'll be mailing IEP plans to parents, because they need to know what they need to go over their lesson plans. And once we get those accommodation supports, we have to have a dyslexia therapist teach that. So depending on the numbers and where they are around the district, we either combine or they can join on with the teacher with their classroom or individual, depending on how it's going to have to work. But they are working with the other teachers in class, so it's going to have to be manipulating times and things, because they still have to have their 30 minutes a day for that take flight if they're doing the dyslexia program. We're going to do everything we can to either take flight or reading by design, because we can have the both options. It's very important that these kids get their time, like I said, in accommodations and their regular work, and using these accommodations with their other work at home. So we are telling parents when we talk to them as well, like everybody else, when you're at home, it's up to you to use accommodations at home, because we'll send you the IEPs, and then it's going to be your responsibility to how you control your accommodations at home. To pick up supplies, they can either call the school or me. I've listed the contacts of who they can contact at each campus. Overlays will be provided to be kids online as well, so all they have to do is contact one of these people. We'll mail the overlays, or they can come pick them up at any time. If you look at the next paper, we have the 504 online support, the people that can help you when we're also using Google Classroom. That'll be in the middle school and high school. Of course, they'll sign on as regular time with other kids and do their work and do their instruction. And once they do, they can do the assessments by Zoom meeting, just like special ed is using in exceptional learner department. And accommodations, again, it's going to be their responsibility to make sure that they keep up with their own accommodations. We did order some plexiglass, just like exceptional learners as well, because Rhonda Jackson travels around a lot to JJP. She travels to Surge, so we bought her some things so she can do assessments and do her pieces of elements. We also did it for the dyslexia teachers, because just like the special learners, they have to be able to read the lips when you're diagnosing kids with dyslexia. So we ordered some for the dyslexia therapists, just because it's important that they're having to, sometimes they spit because they have to huff the words or whatever, and so that's going to protect them from doing all that when they do that assessment. If you look on the last page, it's the MTSS online support as well. Just we've talked already with the counselors; they're doing their part. Me and Rhonda are just the contact of how we're gonna just bring us in for support. Transition plans have been set up already with JJP and how we're bringing those on. Dr. Richburg has helped us now. MTSS is now with Skyward. So now we can input our information, and the counselors can see our notes the minute we're clicking them in there. And it's right there by theirs, so they can see, and we can see when they put their notes, and they can see when we see their notes. So those transition meetings, I think all those kids have to go to face-to-face. So that's going to be good for us, because we don't have to go out and look for them. So we get to see all those kids at school with Rhonda's support and everything like that. And all we do on that part is just help the counselors whatever we can do. Right now, Rhonda and Cynthia are out recruiting, looking for supplies. They have, First Baptist Church has just donated $500 for school supplies, and we've gotten free vouchers for Broadway Treasures for some of our families. So we are in the process of delivering that to some of our families this afternoon. So Rhonda couldn't be here because she's out working and making things happen already. So thank you guys.
Board, we just wanted to be sure that you were assured that everybody has been working diligently in elementary, secondary. We've done, I think, more than what the state has requested in petitioning the input of teachers and the staff that are doing the work directly. Though we've made some decisions as principals and teachers provided other perspective, we've been flexible at the central level to change the decisions to provide greater flexibility towards what they feel makes the most sense for them. As we move forward, we'll continue through that dialogue, give and take process of here's what we think, what do you think, all right, you think this, that makes sense, that's the direction we'll go, how can we support? And we'll continue to bring those pieces of information forward to the board. It's important that we're all informed at a high level of what we're all doing. And as the theme for convocation was United We Stand, that's the way that we'll succeed. With a partnership between home, because they can't do it by themselves, and we can't do it by ourselves, but together we can. So with that, that concludes the open session business. I do need to
Could I say one thing real
Yes, sir.
quick? I want to move up here because I want to address y'all as well. Many of y'all have heard bits and pieces, and you see all the work that's going in, but there's a human side, and it may be a little bit selfish, but one of our employees has been a 25-year employee of the district, got word yesterday about 11 o'clock that his son has disappeared. You may have seen it on Facebook. Sean Ditmore is Ted Ditmore's oldest son. He's 33, a 2006 graduate. He's a librarian at Wayland. Not a shady character. He's a straight by the book librarian. His brother lives in Waco, is a graduate student there. He went to visit him, went driving around Waco, and they have not seen him since. And that was about noon on Tuesday. So please keep him and the family and all that whole thing. You probably don't have a lot of details. Ted's a very private person. He'd probably be cringing if he knew that I was telling y'all this, but we're pitching in, trying to make sure everything happens. But some things are even bigger than all of this, and for them personally, it really is. So if you'll all do that, I really, really would appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Richard. We do need to visit with y'all on personnel matters in executive session. So we close open, recess open, and go to executive.
Okay, we're gonna go to closed session under Government Code Section 551.001, deliberation on the appointment of plumbing compensation evaluation, assignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of employees pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074.
And all campus personnel and instructional personnel, you guys go ahead and head back to what y'all were needing to do. Thank you so much for coming.
3:07, we are out, and we are calling this meeting adjourned. Always keep doing that.